are talking Malevolent, which was directed by Olaf de Fleur Johannesson. This one not to be confused with another 2018 movie called Malevolence. So this one is a made-for Netflix movie, and it focuses on 4 amateur paranormal investigators. However, these kind of guys are not really taking it issues. They actually just are doing it for a con. It focuses mainly on a brother and sister combo. The brother is kind of indebted to some local hoodlums, and ultimately it's just got this sort of scam going where, you know, they go into apparently haunted houses and clear them, but just scam people for money ultimately. However, the sister may well have some genuine sort of psychic ability and be able to kind of contact the dead. And they get an opportunity that is willing to pay them double to go into this kind of like large house, and which has a bit of a dark past where a number of children were murdered to try and cleanse the house basically of these kind of apparent ghosts that are haunting it and screaming constantly apparently. So they go there, and obviously there's this kind of elderly woman who's living there, and we get a bit of backstory about what's happened, and obviously there really is some type of presence there, and obviously an evil lurks within these walls, which you'll soon discover. So that's all I'll say about the movie. Let's discuss. I have a dream, people. I have a dream. And that dream is to one day see a horror movie where people actually act like they do in real life. That is what I want from a horror movie. But I don't have it. We don't have it. We just don't have it. Think of prank videos. Whenever you watch a scary prank video, how do people act in that? That is what people act like when they are scared. Not kind of like, gasp, I'm seeing a literal ghost in front of me, and I'll kind of like have a scared face, and then I'll talk about something else. Because that shit annoys me. And this movie is very kind of guilty of that, along with a number of other cliches. But let's talk about the good stuff first of all. So, the good stuff here. It's actually quite a well-made production in regards to production design. So all the kind of the technical side of stuff, the camera work, the audio mixing, the lighting, all looks very well done, very professional looking. You'll feel like you're watching a quality production which just has some experienced people behind it that who know what they're doing. So you don't feel like you're watching some cheapo horror made by, you know, a bunch of mates on their video camera. This looks professionally made and has a certain amount of polish to it. The actual house itself, where we go, is pretty outstanding in regards to a great horror locale. It looks very gothic, you know, it has a sort of a personality of its own, and as the movie progresses, more kind of like plot threads are uncovered, and it may kind of go in a direction where you maybe don't think. However, if you've seen lots of horror movies, you may well get wise to what's potentially going on, because this plot has been done a couple of other times before. The actual characters are fairly well realised, I would say. I think you get a good idea about each of the characters. Although there's out of the 4 of the group, one is particularly underdeveloped. Obviously, you know that person is going to be the first to get in trouble. And they've also got a couple of recognisable British actors in this movie who kind of give an air of credence to this film and kind of like credibility. That, you know, you've got James Cosmo, who was in Game of Thrones among other things, and a British lady whose name Cecilia, someone I forgot her name. She's you know, again, you've seen her in a bunch of stuff, and they give, you know, obviously solid performances. They know what they're doing. They're very experienced actors. So what's the problem with this film? So this is a well-made film, but it's just so generic. It's just so generic. I don't think there's any real kind of like surprises. Now, this movie attempts to have a twist, like I've mentioned, but if you've watched of more than an average amount of horror films, you're going to see it coming. I think it's fairly obvious what's happening. And as I've mentioned, it just falls into typical cliches. I mean, why people act in this Hollywood way? It's the same issue that I had with the Netflix series, The Haunting of Hill House. People just don't act like this in real life. I mean, the acting isn't bad, but it's just the direction. It's just the way these characters are written, and it's just this staple that we have, and it's one of my bugbears. It never seems to get talked about. It's just like, you know, why do people have to act in this kind of like typical Hollywood way? I just would love to see a movie that actually would have some just kind of like some real realistic people in it about how they would react if they saw a goddamn ghost popping up. Anyway, but there's also just kind of like a little bit of a cheeky dialogue. I mean, the brother who is this con man, he just seems a little bit too OTT, and you know, to be honest with you, it doesn't really make sense because if he doesn't believe anything like this, I mean, the whole basis of his operation is that his sister is psychic. But then why not just say someone else is psychic? If it's all a scam and you didn't think she really had powers to begin with, why does it really rely on the sister? It doesn't make sense. Also, there's another kind of, without kind of giving something away, what happens later on with the kind of the old woman there in the house. There's a decision that she's made that doesn't make sense. I can't give it away, but there you go. So there's just like dumb movie logic in this one, and it's just like typical thing. People go off on their own. It just goes in all the old horror cliches. The actual ghosts themselves, I've got to say, aren't particularly scary. There's a couple of jump scares here and there, but when we kind of see the effects and stuff like that, it doesn't look like particularly well thought out ghostly effects, if that makes sense. They look a little bit too just like actors with a bit of makeup on. So yeah, I mean, the actual aesthetics of the house look great, but the actual ghosts themselves don't appear particularly scary. So overall, I've got to say it's a fairly average horror movie. It isn't bad, it's well made, and I feel if you like just a kind of like a fairly kind of generic ghost story, you can do a lot worse in this one because it will entertain you. You're just never going to want to watch it again once you've kind of seen it once, and kind of like you'll forget about it within a couple of days' time. So I'll simply give this movie a 5 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.